I can hear you.
Okay.
Awesome. Yeah. So, like I said, I think this is probably the best way to do it. We can just get on here and then we can just upload it. I guess. I think that's
Okay.
just the best way. Um, so yeah, I mean, I sent over those questions. I mean, I do appreciate. Thank you so much though for coming on. I mean, it's more or less. I'm going to keep it, just casual. Um, I just, as we were saying like yesterday, I, I gotta send you I went on this live show. Um, it's so frustrating I don't know if you pay attention to like, it's so little, but it's always about rates, right? It was a big thing on like, everybody's talking about like, and I went off. I went off. I was like, oh, I should probably chill, but I get so passionate about it. But like, I, I think that it's on us, right? I think it's sad to say I just basically what I said is, if a broker or a carrier can't figure out how to provide some type of solution or strategy that can, increase the bottom line or figure out how to reduce costs outside of like a carrier rate, it's only a matter of time before those, I feel like they're not going to get anywhere. I mean, I don't think transactional freight's going to go away ever,
Right.
but I feel though like the more and more, I mean, I guess I would ask you, the more and more people that, whether it's a 3PL consulting that come in and really look at things big picture, are going to start, I think they're going to start dominating this industry, or at least on my side from a sales standpoint.
Yeah. I mean, I think what it boils down to, in my opinion, is if you're truly transactional based, you will suffer on the service side of it always, because you want the most, you want the lowest cost, right? Probably, no matter what. I mean, I could be, putting words in people's mouths, but generally transactional based, you're looking for, what can I do for as cheap as I can, right? And keep my bottom line up. Then you're going to suffer on quality carriers. You're going to suffer on your on-time performance. You could potentially suffer on damage. If the carrier's like, yeah, we're transactional based and we're just going to basically throw your stuff around and we don't care. You're going to suffer on that strategic relationship and building, what could potentially be, benefits for both sides, them and you. All that's going to suffer probably with transactional based thinking.
I think you're spot on that. Let me ask, so I got so many questions. I would ask this though. So I guess it goes to, we kind of talked about it yesterday about, executive leadership. And that's even, I mean, you're an executive, but I'm talking like C-suite, right? And I just see that, that's 99% of the time is who I'm targeting, right? Unless it's just impossible to get a hold of. But it's almost like, I don't want to have a shipping conversation, right? I mean, even the way I approach it is just like, listen, you're doing things, I'm doing a little bit of homework on my end. Like maybe I know that they don't properly, allocate their cost into their transportation model, or, maybe that, I call the controller to have just a quick conversation. Hey, how are you guys? Do you guys like ever, do you know the cost to serve by products, by customers, by, customer profitability? And if they don't know that, it's almost baffling to me though when I could get a CFO on the phone and say, hey, listen, I'm not trying to have a shipping conversation with you, but I had a conversation with Stacy, your controller, and she was telling me that you guys don't right now accurately allocate your transportation costs into your pricing model. So that's on average, at least I could say personally myself, my customers, anywhere between 3 to 12% increase in profit, like forget the rates, increase in profitability when they allow me to like do what I do best. And that's just simply run a cost to serve analysis and show them, hey, listen, this is how you should be pricing these lanes. And I think it all stems from that C level that they just never want to, most of them just don't want to meet. You have to almost beat them up. Do you see that like internally?
So let me make sure I'm understanding you correctly. So they're not putting the cost of transportation into their product, or is that what you're, or they're just not pricing correctly to cover both product and transportation. Does that mean that basically that's what you're saying?
Correct. I mean, it's all situational, but a lot. Oh, All right. So obviously we've been talking, but all right, where were we? I went on a rant. You should just when I go on those rants, just tell me to shut up.
You were talking about cost to serve for transportation.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, so when we talk about like, so obviously everyone talks about the rates, and like I was saying is, yesterday, I mean, I try to stay away from that talk because again, I think it's so, I think a rate is so simple, right? That's the easiest, that in my opinion. What would you say? Do you think that's the easiest thing to cut, a transportation rate?
I don't think that you should look at that solely. I mean, there are so many other factors that you need to look at.
Yep.
One is like you were saying, I think it's very beneficial to do a cost to serve analysis, whether you do it in-house or you have somebody like yourself, kind of helping with that. But what I've seen at a lot of companies is they focus on rate alone, and they don't look at, what, like you said, what is the cost to serve to the customer? What is the cost to serve for that lane? They often overlook accessorial charges and what you're getting charged, at the customer. It could be, fees for, taking too long to unload. It could be, a truck not used. It could be, any variation
That's
of
when you got
accessorial.
LTL.
Yeah, or else, I mean, it could be any variation of accessorial charges that aren't really kind of dug into. So what I've found, and we did a really good job at this at one of my former companies. We put together, when I came in, I worked with the finance team and my logistics analyst at the time, and we actually did a separate freight P&L, which really showed you down to the lane, down to the customer, down to the GL account, what it was costing us. So, okay, these are your prices to the customer, and these are all your expenses on the transportation side, not just price, but everything else that goes in along with it. Another thing I don't think companies look at is, if customers, say they place orders once every week and they really are not maximizing the truckload shipment, right? So, you may want to go back to them and say, hey, look, I noticed, you're shipping once a week. But with your inventory turns and the amount of what you're selling, out of your distribution centers, probably makes more sense to maximize a truck every 2 weeks. Sometimes companies just take, whatever the customer gives, which I know we're very service oriented, and I totally understand that. But in the long run, it's really better for, you as the company and for the customer to kind of streamline that, and it takes cost out. And then the third thing, which you and I've talked about before, is definitely having those strategic partnerships with your vendors, whether it be logistics vendors, purchasing vendors, whatever, and it's, and working together on these types of things. So you're getting away from the transactional base, the cost base, and you're really looking at it from a strategic partnership perspective to kind of drive everything that I just talked about.
You just nailed that. I can't wait to show some people this because again, this industry is so. Like I said, I say it. It's funny. I changed my name, Black Swan, but 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 no. And so let's take a step back on this though. So like, I know we were talking about a little earlier, but you know, it's not so much. So I want to reach out to like I said even yesterday. I'm CFO, right? It depending on the size of the company, but usually, like, I mean, if they, if they, it's just situational, right? Like, I actually like what you said. Let me take a step back. You're the VP of supply chain. I would probably reach out to you first, but even just hearing that in your mindset, like when I was like, would you be offended if I would have reached out to your CFO first prior to going to you? And you said no, go where the money's at, and you're comfortable in your skin. Obviously, you're going to be a huge player, but I've been in situations where it's like I think maybe it's my own insecurity where it's like there's been VPs of supply chain and I went over there. I didn't really go over their head. I just said, hey, listen, the CFO is essentially it's a $300 million company. It's a $15 million line item. I mean, the CFO is probably going to have to be in that eventually. So why not get him tied in now versus have to, I guess not really trickle up the ladder so much if I was to meet with the VP of supply chain, but you never know. So do you see that it's, I guess more or less, you wouldn't get offended, but do you see it's even harder if I like internally, if we were to meet at just, you could just hypothetically a company, you'd have to probably, you said what? Usually it is the president or COO going to make a call. If it was like a one-stop shop 3PL, you're going to sign a contract. Would it be your typically a president or a COO?
Yeah, I think if you're gonna, make a major change like that, say you're going from, kind of a more transactional base where, you're managing your carriers and you're, kind of managing the TMS, et cetera. You're going from that more to like, maybe a 3PL or some sort of managed freight. More than likely the decision is going to be at a higher level because it's going to that's going to have kind of a ripple effect throughout the organization. My whole thing is always go to who has the money and who's the decision maker. Most of the time they're kind of tied in together. So if you can get that person, whether it be the CFO would be, a great start. If it's a huge multi-billion-dollar company, that probably doesn't make sense. But so it really depends on kind of your target, target company, target industry. But again, the people that are reporting up through the decision makers or the people with the money, with the purse strings, are eventually going to have to go to them anyway to get buy off, because it is going to be a fiscal decision, so to speak. So I think, like I said, that's where you go where the money is, and you go where the decision making is, whatever level that may be at. And again, the person with the money is going to be, not, if not the person, it'll be definitely part of the group of people, team, or a couple people that do make the decisions, if that makes sense.
No, and 100%. And it's funny is because I do like, after 8 years, it's almost comical, right? I get the same thing. You get a CFO on the phone. As soon as he hears anything logistics, it's like, oh, I don't handle that. And like literally, not even just send you down to a level down. It's go to the warehouse, right? But I think that again, I think just getting everybody involved, because the supply chain. I've listened to some of your podcasts. The supply chain affects multiple departments. And it's not so much that I'm saying, I always think it's not so much I'm saying that like everybody can't do their job, or, we all have a boss, right? But more or less, if you can get that higher level, C-level, CFO, president to say, hey, listen, this is what I'm bought in. I don't need to be in on every single meeting, but this is what we're doing. He or she is stressing that this is going to benefit the company. We're going to move forward with this. Please, whoever spearheads it, and getting everyone, all, meeting of the minds and everyone tied in to actually, implement it. Because I see so many times that, I've read a bunch of articles on like why things like go south, and things, it's usually when implementation happens, there's no executive leadership involved at all. So it's basically, it just kind of, it goes and then it trickles away. Have you seen that? Like where there's just executive leadership wouldn't even, say you brought is it hard for you to even bring a solution to, your executive board?
Yeah, again, I think that, I think you're spot on. You've got to have it, come from the top, because like we said, it affects so many areas. If you're going from, more of a transactional base to a 3PL, or making really any sort of change like that, you're going to need IT resources, potentially, and hopefully you're going to need some sort of, EDI resources, or something, like EDI. You're also going to need the people that are at the plants that are doing the, the scheduling, for, like at the warehouse or distribution center. They're going to have to be on board, because all of that's going to change. So it's not at that point really just a supply chain initiative. So having that buy-in, like you said, from the top, so they can say this is the mission. This is what we're looking to do. Again, like you said, they don't have to be involved in every meeting or any meeting, but to make sure that they're kind of cascading that message down throughout the organization is important. Otherwise, you may not be successful, or as successful as you'd like, without that.
No, I definitely like